Okay, yesterday we began Masechta Baba Basra. We saw in the Mishnah that Shufin that want to make a mechitza boines bias as kaisel beinehem. We said that there's two possible pshatim. We said you're going to say pshat, it's a mechitza. So if they want to put up the mechitza, then they put it up. If they don't want to put it up, they don't have to, because hezek sheinaria loy shmei hezek. The hezek of seeing is loy shmei hezek. According to another opinion, shutfin that want to go ahead and make a division, they want to go ahead and make a division, right? Then they go ahead and they have to build a mechitza of a kaisel. They have to build a wall of a, and it's not enough to put up a demarcation, because hezek hezek shmei hezek. That's where we left off. We asked 6 questions on the Manda Omar who says hezek ria lo shmei hezek, and we saw that there's certain along the ways there's certain waivers. So, for example, in a gina, it's us to go ahead and stand and watch the gina. And we saw a beautiful chilik. Guys, I love that chilik the Meiri brought between hezek re'iyah and ayin hara. So hezek re'iyah, I wasn't articulate yesterday. If hezek re'iyah shmei hezek, where's the payment? The payment is I can force you to build a wall. In other words, if hezek re'iyah shmei hezek, that's where it comes in. I can force you to go ahead and build that wall. That's what I can do. Ayin hara, on the other hand, said the Meiri, was looking at a person's field for an extended period of time and causing physical damage through your eye. And you would pay for the crops, it's mashma. That in this case, moment, it's called that you did damage. So that was the chilik between ayin hara and the hezek re'iyah based upon the Meiri. The second pshat, we also saw hezek re'iyah is a difference between a chutzner and a house. We saw hezek re'iyah, there's a difference between a rabbim and a yachid. So in other words, even if you hold hezek re'iyah lo shmei hezek, there are certain places where it would be shmei hezek. Today we're going to discuss the second shita. So shutfin that want to divide up if they want to divide up, what do they have to do? They go ahead and they have to build a wall. And it's not enough to build to demarcate it with using pegs, because hezek re'iyah shmei hezek. So now we're going to go according to that opinion, and we're beginning the Gemara now on Gimel Amid Beis, Gimel Amid Aleph. Lishna Achrina, Imila Savrua, the Bnei Yeshiva held, my mechitza. When it says the word mechitza, what does it mean? It means plukta. It goes ahead, it means what? It means a division. Kidich siv. It says what he mechitza Eida, and there the Eida is meaning, it doesn't mean half the Eida, it means the Eida are divided. Right, so you see that the lashon mechitza can be used in a person who is of other ilk than another person. The kivin the ratzu, since they want to go ahead and divide, it's not enough to put up a regular wall. Since they want to divide, it's not enough to put up a regular wall. But what do they have to do? They have to go ahead. You go ahead. Once you want to, you can build a wall against their will. You can build a wall against their will. Alma, what do you see? Hezek re'iyah, shmei hezek. Hezek re'iyah is shmei hezek. So that was the second lashon. Fred the Gemara of the Ema my mechitza guda. Why don't we say that what mechitza is a wall, and kidetanya? Remember, change the gears to kidetanya. Mechitza is hakerem shenifitza. You had a wall that was dividing a vineyard and a field of yerakos. And if it comes down, the vineyard is going to go ahead and grow into the field of yerakos. If it's moisif 200 of its growth, it's going to make acid the yerakos al klei hakerem. So we said that what he has to put up the wall. Amulay gadar. We tell him to go ahead and put up the wall. Nifritza amulay gadar. Nisyaya shimenu if he gives up hope and he doesn't do it. Harizuch kiddush. The lashon of pet tukadesh. It's going to be asa b'hana v'chayim b'achrayusa, and the bal hakerem will be chayim in achrayus. Okay, the time of the ratzu. And the reason is because they want to go ahead and divide the wall. They want to go ahead and put up a wall. Halay ratzu, if they don't want to put up a wall, you're not mechayiv. Alme hezek re'iyah, lo shmei hezek. So in other words, this is the exact dialogue we had yesterday, just a bit of a different way, right? The first dialogue was going according to the opinion that the mechitza is a wall, and the second one is the opinion that mechitza is a plukta. And now we're taking mechitza as a plukta as the predominant pshat, and we're going again and asking from the mechitza, which now is the ancillary pshat. Fred the Gemara, if you're telling me that it means what? A wall, boines a kaisel, Guys, quickly look back to the Mishnah for 1 second. Look back at the Mishnah for 1 second. We saw this yesterday. Let's see it one more time. Hashutafin sheratzu lasais mechitza. Shufin that want to make a wall, make a wall, a chutzner. They build a wall. Now, usually, if you go ahead and you introduce the proper noun, then you could use the pronoun afterwards. So it should say, according to you, Hashufin sheratzu lasais mechitza. If they want to go ahead and put up a wall, then you should build it. So that is a grammatical question that remains unanswered. That's a grammatical question that remains unanswered. But there's another grammatical question that we're going to ask, and that's the following. It's you. If you want to say to divide, it should say shufin sharatza lachtzai. When they go at lachtzais, they want to go ahead and divide. Use a verb. Don't go ahead and use a noun. So then, in other words, I got my grammatical problem. You also have a grammatical problem, right? So which is the lesser of two evils? So it says back in the Gemara now. Ihachi, parallel to the place of the Vashi, one line above. Ihachi boines a kaisel, boinoi slimy boile. You should say build it. Use the pronoun. Elamai, what are you going to say? Plukta. That it means plukta. That it's what? It's a division. Ihachi shiratzu lasais mechitza, shiratzu lachtzais mi boile. Don't say you want to make an obscure, use mechitza, guys, which could lead me to make a mistake and think it means wall. Use a much more proper term. Shutfin, shiratzu lachtzais, who want to literally divide. Lachtzais, like the Lashon Chatzi, mi boile. Says the and for the Gemara, to the Army Inshi, like people say, hey navid plukta. Go ahead, what, and make a plukta. That's what it's, that's the teretz. People, Rashi says, Terutzahi, they say people can say, let's go make a plukta, let's go make a mechitza. So now, here's the kasha. Vi hezek, Shmei hezek, again, loit demand the Omar, you can't chazer this enough. Loit demand the Omar, who's of the opinion that mechitza means plukta, and the reason, therefore, once we go ahead and decide to divide, you have to put up a wall, and you can't put up pegs to demarcate. Why do you have to put up a wall? Because you have to go ahead and stop that person from staring me by looking inside, right? By looking inside, you want to stop that. Then why do you care if they want to? Afilu ratsunami. That's a great question. Guys, who cares that you want to, you don't want to? I have to agree to it. If I were to put up a wall, you're going to have to pay. Hezek Yishmei Hezek. It's mashma ratzu shnehem. They both want to go ahead and agree to it. So let me say, I have a chutzah with Kenny. And I say, Kenny, I want to put up a wall. Kenny says, I don't want to. If Hezek Shmei Hezek, Kenny, tough luck. So why does it say what? Ratzu Shnehem. You need both of them. Fred the Gemara, okay, now you got your pshat. Grammatically, you worked it out that mechitza means a plukta. Army inshi. Let's go divide. Great. Okay, let's go divide. It's mashma. The only reason you're putting up a wall, despite the fact that Hezek Riyah Shmei Hezek, is because they both agree. If Hezek Riyah Shmei Hezek, even if only one person wants to put it up, if only one person wants to put it up, why do you need both of them to agree? It's a great kasha. Amra Vasi, and for the Gemara, Amra Vasi, and Rabbi Yochanan, Mishnah Seinu, Am Mishnah, that going along with that lashon of plukta, Kishein Bo Din Chaluka. It's speaking about where the chatzah doesn't have a din chalukah. I mentioned this yesterday. I mentioned it the day before. There is a chatzah where you can force the issue, and there's a chatzah you can't. If each person has 4 amas, if it's 8 amas, then you can't. The person can't say I don't want to. If it's less than 8 amas, the person can say I don't want to. So Am Mishnah with Zetzing Ein, it's speaking that it's a chatzah she'ein bo din chalukah. And therefore, no one can force the issue except if they want to. So in answer to your question, if Kenny would want and I don't, then we don't have to. And it could be the Hezek Riyah Shmei Hezek. It doesn't make a difference. Why? Because there is no din chalukah in this chatzar. However, once I want to, then I must put up a wall and not enough to go ahead and demarcate with pegs. Why? Because Hezek Riyah Shmei Hezek. Hezek Riyah Shmei Hezek. Vudaratzu, my kamashmalon. What's the chiddush? Right, my kamashmalon. What's the chiddush? Right, the chiles din chaluka hiratzu. Right, pligi, that when what? There's no din chaluka. If they want to, they can. What's the chiddush of the Mishnah according to you? That a chatzah that's less than an amis, if they want to, they could divide it, and they could force each other to divide it. Hanina, we learned this in this Mishnah. We're going to see Bez Hashem later on in Daf Yud Aleph. Hey, Masai, when do we say what? When do we say that what? That you can divide it? Bisman she'ein shnei and reitzen. In other words, then there's no din. Excuse me. When do we say there's no din chaluka? Bisman she'ein shnei and reitzen. They both don't want, or one of the two don't want. Al bisman she'shnei and reitzen. Afilu pachas mikan, even less than 8 amis cholkin. You go ahead, what, and you'll divide. Okay. So Fredig Marakasha, why do I need the Mishnah on Yud Aleph? I hear it from here. I hear from it. So let's take a look at the Mishnah on Yud Aleph for a second, guys. It'll make things a little clearer. Yud Aleph Amid Aleph. So the Mishnah starts off. Right? Go through the whole Mishnah. Look at the last end of the Mishnah. The Kisvei HaKodesh, you have partners in Kisvei HaKodesh. Afal Pisha Shneim Reitzim, even if they both want to divide it, Lo Yechloku. Says Rashi, Kisvei HaKodesh, Chav Dalet Svarim, it's the 24 books of Nevi'im and Kesuvim, V'hayiregilu L'Koisvan B'Gilyon, and they would write them like in a scroll, Sefer Torah, Shalanu, L'fikach Genai HaDav L'Chatchan. Once they're written in one scroll, it will be a Genai, it will be lowering the standard, lowering the kedusha of this by cutting it up. So there's that din. So we learned a bunch of din of shutfin dividing. There are, however, Kisvei HaKodesh cannot be divided. Kisvei HaKodesh cannot be divided. Back in the Gemara. So we have the kasha. Why do I need the Mishnah on Yud Aleph if I hear it from the din of Mishnah on days? Like the Manda Omar, that mechitza means plukta. It's speaking chatzah shein b'din chaluka, and therefore, even though hezekriya lo shmei hezek, you wouldn't have to go ahead and divide unless they both want to. So, mamish, you heard the din, the way we learned pshat in this Mishnah. You wouldn't need the Mishnah on Yud Aleph, and the answer is you don't need the Mishnah on Yud Aleph. Not for that din. You mid Mishnah on the Yud Aleph, guys, for the latter din. Says the Gemara. Amos says the Gemara mikan ime hasam if hava mina afilu pachas mikan b'mesifas ba'alma kamash malan. Says the Gemara. If from there you just had the Mishnah on Yud Aleph, so now the Gemara's kasha is, I jumped the gun. Gemara's kasha is, why do we need our Mishnah to tell me that if you have it on Yud Aleph? Says the Gemara, if the Mishnah on Yud Aleph, I would say afilu pachas mikan b'mesifas ba'alma, you wouldn't know kaisel. Kamashman hacha kaisel. Why do you hear from our Mishnah, guys? You hear the word kaisel. Over there, you'd say that what it's enough to divide it using pegs to demarcate, but you wouldn't need a regular wall. Our Mishnah says, "Shutfin sharatzu lasim mechitz b'nayim boine es hakaisel beemsa." The key words being boine es hakaisel, which there is no mention of in the Mishnah Yud Aleph. So, if just the Mishnah Yud Aleph, I'd say if they want to divide, how would they divide? They divide by using pegs to demarcate the two places. Kamash malon, that what? No. Our Mishnah that boine es hakaisel. Now the Mishnah goes ahead and asks my kasha, the one that I jumped the gun. Listening Havlay, listening Hach. Learn our Mishnah and not that Mishnah. Says because you hear both, guys. So my Mishnah, you hear the din of division, and you hear that it has to be through a wall. Says the Gemara, Hach Sefer Tzrichalei. We need that Sefer. What's the Sefer of that Mishnah? The Kisvei HaKodesh. After Mishnah Maitzim Leich Leiku. So the Kisvei HaKodesh, even though what we shutfin and they want to divide, we won't let them divide. Even though we won't let them divide. Why? Because again, as I said, it's a ganai for the sefer. And that's what we need it for. So we don't need it for the first din, because we have that from our Mishnah, we need it for the latter din. So guys, we're good, okay? We have the two pshatim in the Mishnah, mechitza. If it's a mechitza itself, then hezek shein and nikol lo shmei hezek. If it's a plukta, then hezek riya is shmei hezek. And therefore, you have to put up mamish a wall, a binyan, and the wall is going to have to be, it doesn't say, but it's going to have to be 4 amis high. We saw that in the Rambam yesterday, right? That it has to be what? 4 amis high. Now, there's parentheses over here, and my rule is that you don't say parentheses. So guys, we're skipping the next 10 lines. Baruch, stop smiling. Dr. Press, get that smirk off your face. Says the Gemara. B'mayu kimtul mas nisan. How do you go ahead, Juan, and learn Pshat in our Mishnah? B'she'ein bodin chaluka. You're speaking where what? Where they want to divide a chutz. So that's less than 8 amas. I b'she'ein bodin chaluka ki rotza may have. Good, they want to. Ben what? Nahadru b'hu. The person go ahead, what, and change his mind. Says the top, says Taisus, second Taisus in the top. Kiratsu my have nahadru b'hu. The mandiyama mechitza guda like parach. We're not asking according to the mandiyama that mechitza is a wall. The ikla meimar, the kanu. There's as far to say that what, that they acquired it. The shibdu nechseim lebinyan akaiso, and therefore they made a kinyan and they will mishabed their property to put up the wall, and therefore it's not a kasha why you could change their mind. So Taisus is learning, right? Taisus is learning. Rashi learned otherwise. Rashi learned even like this mandi amar, right? Taisus is learning, fellas, that even like this mandi amar, right? If you look at Rashi yesterday's Amid Base, 2 lines from the top, the time of the Ratsu, Libnais Kaisel, the Midash Shneim who the Chayim Chachamim Sheyibanu Ben Shneim Ulakamam Porech Kisharatsu My Have Lahadribe. Let them have charata. So guys, you see Rashi says it's going even according to Mandi Amma that you put up a wall. That's Rashi, again, that's the shot that you put up a wall. So you see Rashi's learning not like Taisus. Rashi's learning that even like this Mandi Amma, you should be able to go ahead and change your mind. Taisus is learning if they go ahead and said to put up a wall, that mechitza means a wall, they made it that kinyan, and therefore they mishabed their property. So Taisus, Mandi Amma, let's finish Taisus. Mandi Amma plukta loimahani kinyan, the kinyan devarim balmahu. Right now, okay. Let's. You'll see the Gemara. You'll understand. I don't want to go ahead and steal the Gemara's thunder. So we have a kasha, guys. Why do you decide you don't want to do it? So why do you have to go through with it? It's a chatz shem badin chaluka. Why do you have to go through with it? So Rabbi Yochanan shekana miyadai. You made a kinyan chalipin. Guys, remember Perek Azov? Kinyan chalipin, primary kinyan, end of Rus, right? Shalaf nishnoloy. That is right. This is a primary kinyan. So they were koina, right? They're going to go ahead and put it up. They were koina, they're going to put it up. When you make a kinyan chalipin, it's on some physical attribute. It's on something. Over here, it's on words. Chalipin can't be chal on words. Chalipin is chal on a matana. Chalipin is chal on something, but it's not chalad on words. Says Gemara, they went, in other words, they would kind of, you do the east side, I'll do the west side. They went ahead, and that is enough to go ahead on. And now Taisus makes sense, right? Look at the end of Taisus. The kinyan devarim almahu. It doesn't help because kinyan devarim, the like masagadaite, because at this point in time we didn't think shekana barucha. It's speaking with what they were kind of the ruchais. They didn't speak time. They were kind of the ruchais. Ravashi Amarashi says, just one second, fellas. Okay, 1 second. So Ravashi said it's talking about you made a kinyan chalipin on the ruchais, and that you could do. Ravashi they made a kinyan chazaka. Karka nichlis b'shleisha derachim b'kesef shara chazaka. They made a chazaka. Taisus is machadish over here. So if chalip is a kinyan, what's Rav Ashi being machadish? We know that that's a kinyan. They're both kinyanim. So you're telling me Rav Ashi's being machadish something, correct? Rav Ashi is not arguing on the idea of chalipin. He's saying they made a kinyan chazaka. Taisus says usually you have to say lei chazaka kni. You have to go ahead to make a kinyan chazaka. You have to give rishus. In this case, once they made up, you wouldn't have to go ahead and give him rishus. So that's the chiddush of Rav Ashi. Okay. The Mishnah had said, we went through, I'm going to give you outside, guys. We have different dimensions. We had gevil, which is stones that are not yud. There's projectiles coming out of it. You would need, the wall would be 6 tefachim wide. Each one would have to give up their property 3 tefachim. If it was a gazis, which they're chiseled and therefore they're smoother, then it's 1 tefach less, 5 in total, each one giving up 2.5. If it's kfisin, which is guys, listen to my words. If it's kfisin, which is a half a brick is 3 tefachim, a half a brick is 1.5. So you have to give 4. You'll ask 1.5 and 1.5 is 3 and not 4. Since it's half bricks, you have to put cement in between, a tefach of cement. So therefore, it adds up to 4. Hit 1.5, 1.5, and 1. Okay, that's the 4. And the levanim is a brick of 3. Each one gives up 1.5. So the Gemara now is going to go to and speak out exactly what. How do you know this? How do you know these bricks? There's names and different dimensions, and it's going to be Allah and Moshe Sinai. Says the Gemara. Gevil is avnei deloy mishpaya. They're not what? They're not polished, literally polished, not chiseled. Gazes avnei mishafya. Avnei that you did go ahead and smooth over. Yichsiv kolelu avonim yikares kemidas gazes. So when it comes to the binyan Beis Hamikdash, the Bayis Rishon is saying all of them, they were made from midas gazes, which is chiseled stones. But it doesn't say what a gevil is. It just says what gazes is. Kfisin is archi, it's a half a brick. Levanim is livni, it's a full brick. Amalei Rava braid the Rav, Amalei Rabba braid the Rava l'Ravashi. Memai the gevil. How do you know that gevil? Avnei deloy mishafia. How do you know they're uncut stones? V'hai tefach yisera l'merasha de karnasa, and the extra tefach that you go from that a brick is. A brick of gusses is 1 extra tefach, right? 5 to 6 is because you're getting the rush of the karnasa, you're getting the corners, meaning the protrusions of the corners, you have to give into account they protrude, so you get 6 tefachim instead of 5. Dilma palga de gusses have, maybe it's half of a gusses. Now if a gusses is 5, then it's 2.5, and then you're gonna have to add, that's 5, and then you're gonna have to add another tefach. Just like kfis and guys is 1.5, 1.5, 1. To make what 4, maybe you're telling me that a gevil is 6. Maybe now you get 6, that it's half of a guzis. A guzis is 5. Half of a guzis would be 2.5. 2.5, 2.5 is 5. But since the half, you're going to have to add what? 1 tefach for the cement. So maybe I can arrive at the denomination of 6 through a different way. How do you know it's a full brick that's unchiseled? Maybe it's what? It's a half of a chiseled brick. And the extra tefach that was required is for what? For the cement. The high tefach yisera lebeni urvi. That's between the bricks. Who says kidach minin kfisin archel levenin livni by tefach yisera livni urvi. In other words, the same thing. We arrive by kfisin that we got 4 is because 1.5 and 1. Go ahead and say a gevil is 2.5, 2.5 and 1. But how do you know it's 6? So Amalei. So Rav Ashi told Rabbi Rei the Rava. Well, kfisin arche minalan. How many kfisin are here for bricks? Guys, your whole cheshbon, Rabba bar Brei the Rava is cheshbon based upon what? Just like kfisins are half and half, and then you add a hole for the tefach for the cement. So maybe a gevil is also half and a half. So he's asking him a better question. How in the world that kfisim is what? You want to know how do you know gevil is a full brick? How do you know kfisin is a half a brick that you're making your whole drusher over here? Your whole drusher is based upon kfisin being half bricks. How do you know that? So he says to him, Dilma my kfisin, avni, delay mishayfi. Maybe that kfisin, that 1/2 is avonim that are not the high tefach yisrael. Maybe what? Maybe they're 3. Maybe they're livni that are 3. And you know where you get the 4th from? Because they're not chiseled. Guys, we're saying kfisin are what? 2 halves to make 3 and 1 for 4. And now you're asking, how do you know gevil is 6? Is a full 6? Maybe it's 2.5, 2.5, 1. So he asked them, if kfisin, how are you so sure that to get 4 means it's what? It's 1.5, 1.5. Maybe it's livni, which is 3, but it's livni that's not chiseled, and that would give you 4, right? In other words, I can get you to the denomination of 4 the same way I can get you to gevil at 6. Says the Gemara, Dilma my kfisin avnid loy mishayfin the high tefach yisera the 4 my rush of the karnasa kida karminon gevil avnid loy mishayfin. Gevil is avonim that are not chiseled. Gazes avnid mishayfin high tefach yisera is the rush of the karnasa. So Amalei. So Rabba bar Rav Brei the Rabbi asked Rav Ashi ultaimech gevil avnid loy mishayfin minalan. 1 second. Oh, no, you know what? I have an Ikadiyami over here. I think I skipped. Guys, totally. I skipped the whole Gemara. Go back. Let's take it from the top. I'll go quickly. Makom shnag libas. Gevil avnei b'lam mishayfa. Gazes avnei mishayfa. Dechsiv kolei lavnas yikaros kemidas gazes. Fisin is archis hefbricks. The beinim live days full brick. Amay Rabbi Levider Rabbi Ashi. And my gevil avnei b'lam mishayfa ninu. But tefach yiser lim rosh the karnasa. Dilma palga the gazes super high tefach yiser libnei orvihu. Kidakamina kfisin archi levenin livni. High tefach yiser livni orvi. Amalei tamech kfisin archi minalan. Eliat say gemar gemirila. It's a Messiah. Just like Kfisin is, you have Messiah, so you have Messiah there. Ikki the army, the same dialogue in a different way. Amalei Ravacha Brei Rav Avular Vashi. Memai Dai Kfisin Archid Ninu. V'Hai Tefach Yisera Libnei Urvi. Dilma Mai Kasifin 1.5 Avonim. D'Loi Mishayfa. V'Hai Tefach Yisera to get it to 4 is like Russia to Karnasa. So you're not getting 1.5, but you're getting about a full 3 and an additional, uncut. That Kaminan Givil Avni Dlem Shaifen, Gaz Avni Shaifen, by Tef Giser Lim Rosh Karnasa, Amalei. So Rav Avia answered to Rav Acha, Rav Ashi answered Rav Acha, Brei Rav Avia, Ul Tamech Givil Avni Dlem Shaifen Minolam. Where you know that from? El Gemar Gemirila. It's a Messiah Halachah Mishpasina El Chadami Gemar Gemirila. Amar Vai Shmami. No, what do we see? Kol Beini Urvi Tefach. Right. When we say Beini Urvi is a Tefach, that in other words, between the bricks, 2 halves, you're gonna have to put cement. That's what is hani mili betina. That's pure mud. Aval beriksa. Riksa is mud. You can have a bunch of chazrai mixed in, pebbles and different things. That's going to be thicker than boit fei. You would need more than a tefach. Where it's pure cement, then it's enough a tefach. But where it's like, if you remember the old days, they pour cement with pebbles. Today the cement is smooth. The old days, you look at the old, there were pebbles and junk and different things. Vika the army hani mili beriksa. When do you need a full tefach? Is that's beriksa? That's the cement mixed with junk. Aval betina, if it's full-fledged cement that's smooth, like boy kulihai, you would not need a full tefach. So again, according to the first lashon, pure, you would need a tefach. According to the second lashon, even less than a tefach. Remember the gosses, the chol dal amis goiva, you have a pushya chamesh koi. Now this wall is going to be what? This wall is going to be 4 amis high, right? I told you, I gave you that information, right? Now, 4 amis high needs a width of what? Of 5. Because you're telling me that a guzis has to be wide 5. So proportionally in the halachas of engineering, we're saying that if you have a wall that's 4 amis high, you're going to need what? You're going to need, so if it was 8 amis high, you would need 10 tefachim. It was 12 amas high. You would need 50 tvachim. In other words, you would have to go up more and more as you go higher. Good. So now says the Gemara, the memra, the begozis. When you have a gozis, I'm looking at what the Bach is saying. The begozis, take out the dalet. Remember the kol dalet amas goiva. How you push your chamesh koi, it'll stand eloi koi. The ha'ama traxin. You have an amatraxin. This is in the Bayis Rishon, guys. The Bayis Rishon, the wall that separated the Kaddish Kedoshim from the Kaddish was called the amatraxin. And here's a very bloggable stuff. Where's the lashon of traxin come from? Look at Tosfos. Traxin. Aimer Rabbeinu Tam. The Tarak have a kimoy teruki goli brachas. It's like the gates are closed. The word Torah means closed. B'sin have a Sinai. Klema shahaya mafsik. B'soiger es haluchos shenosta b'Sinai. Shoy meneches ba'oren. Shoy b'bein kachik kedashim. So guys, amatraxin, it makes up 3 things. 1, it's an ama. Torak, it closes. Sin, the luchas. It's the wall that closes what between the outside and the oren that contains the luchas. Beautiful places to explain the etymology of that word, amatraxin. So in the first bias, that's where it was. If I recall correctly, we said that how they walk in on Yom Kippur, I think the wall was right directly there. I think it was straight ahead. I'm not sure. I don't remember correctly. I shouldn't say. If there's something in front of it, I'm not sure. I forgot. But because we know in the Gemara Yuma we have the proiches. In the second bias we had a proiches. So the Gemara now is going to go ahead and try to figure out what happened between the first bias and the second bias. First bias, they had the amatraxin, and the second bias, we had a proiches, and we have our ratio of if it's 4 amas high, it needs 5 tefachim wide. Okay, again, 6 tefachim equals 1 amma, guys. 6 tefach is 1 amma. For Amatraxin, Gavoya Tilsin Amasa, the wall that was in the first bias was 30 amis high. If I'm telling you that that an amma is 6 tfachim, so if 4 amis needs 5 tfachim, how in the world can you have a 30 amis with what? With 6 tfachim, right? 6 tfachim is an amma. Proportionally, it doesn't work out, right? It doesn't work out. It's a pella. It's a pella. Says the Gemara, even the ikka tefach, since you have that extra tefach going from 5 to Yisera, koi, it stands. So I guess in the halachas of engineering, it doesn't always have to be 2 to 1. In other words, for 4 amis, you need 5. But for 30 amis, even that 1 amma more can make a significant difference. That's the Gemara's teretz. I mean, I have no way of, obviously, guys, it was an amma wide, and it was 30 amis high. That's the given, and it did stand. And it did stand.
It's not possible that, talk about the base of Mikdash, there was so many nisim every day.
It's not brought down as a ness. Not brought down as one of the nisim. But there is, I would have thought the following, and Taisus is going to suggest it in a second. The Amatraxin was on the bottom, and in fact, it connected to the top. It wasn't a 4 kaisel wall freestanding where it had no support on top. It had a ceiling, and the ceiling was weighting down upon it. So therefore, it's possible for an amma to go ahead and hold a 30 amma high wall. If you look at Rashi, look at Tosus, guys. Shiny Hasam, the Ikka Tefach Yisera. Hani Havimatzi L'Shnuye, we could have answered the Agav Tikra Umaziva Koi Tefach. As a result of the ceiling and its accompanying cement, that it stood with that extra tefach, kidamina b'samach, as we'll say later on. But we give it different teretz now. In other words, even if it was freestanding, it would have been able to stand with just that extra tefach. This is.
But wasn't it also connected on the corners? Wasn't it? So that gives the support.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Again, it would depend upon where the Kohen Gadol had to enter. If he entered on the side, then it wasn't connected to the wall. If he entered in the middle, you'd be right, Hesh. But somewhere along the line there was an entrance, Hesh, that he had to go in. So I don't think, because or else according to you, it's just one big wall. So it had to be, what's the word when it's something is made inferior? What's the word? When something is I don't know. There's a word on, where's Yehuda Horowitz? when you have a wall or something, any structure, and it's been okay, let's fight it. Anyway, you get my point. So
compromised.
What?
Compromised.
Compromise is the word. Thank you, Daf. Thank you, Daf. That's good. Compromise is the word I was looking for. Thank you, Shkoyach. Okay, now says the Gemara, how do you know that a taka was 30? It says, Godel yiyeh kavod habayis hazeh ha'achrei min harishayin. Great is the covet of this bias from the achrei min harishayin. Now, if you look at Rashi, guys, it says Shaya Gavoya Meya Amis Kedarmina Masechta Midas. Now it says over here Meya, right? You see that word Meya, Rashi? You see there's a shtickle there. You see there's a something to look at. But I have a yud. I don't know what you have. But look at the yud. It's going to be the Mesaris Hashas. Mesaris Hashas, that tells you, sometimes it tells you where to look with Gemaris. And here it tells you, Ayin Taisis Yontif Reish Perekei Diyuma, Diva Maskal, Lebein Shnei, the Goris Mem Amis, the Kosav, the Neschalef Bein Mem Lemeya. They made a mistake, guys. It's really only 40 Amis high. It's only 40 amis high, right? And they made a mistake, right? They made a mistake that they said mem, and they thought they meant meya. Okay, so in Migdash Sheni, they didn't make an amatraxin because ki koi betilson koi, tvei loy koi. It wouldn't. In other words, more than 30, it wouldn't have stood. More than 30, and in the second bias, it was 40 high. So therefore, they couldn't make the amatraxin. How do you know in the second bias it was higher than the first bias? Yichsiv, Gadol Yiyah Kavod Abayis Ezeh Achrein Min HaRishain. Greater is this Achrein from the Rishain. So there's another Taisus Yantiv, guys, that there was this Min who asked this question. It says Gadol the Achrein from the Rishain. So it's mashma, fellas. How many Batei Mikdashos will there be? Achrein. What does Achrein usually mean? The last, right? It means the last. So it's the Taisus Yantif here is in Demai, Perik Zayin, Mishnah Gimel. He says, "V'shamati shemin hakasav azet tshuva l'shoyel beperik beperish gadol yeh kovet abayis achron she'al bayis sheni nemar v'nimsa shein oit shlishi." There's not going to be a third. V'tshuva shepirshu k'may achroinim the Leah yesh oid Yosef v'Rachel achroinim la. It says like by Leah that's the achroin, but it wasn't the achroin to Yaakov. There were other children afterwards, right? There was Yosef and there was Binyamin. So in other words, the third one is going to be the achroin to the last one. It doesn't mean achroin's the last. It means achroin to the last one. So the shlishi is going to be the achroin to the last achroin. And he also, and it says, I was zoicha lehevi eid sheni. I can bring a second raya. Made him yakum dava. Two testimonies doesn't matter. Go ahead. What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu tell Moshe? The Sham will call a oisa achroin. They'll listen to the last ois. The chazav and ois another ois shlishi, and then you're going to give a third ois. So it says, you see, they're going to listen to the achroin, then it says shlishi afterwards. So you have in Perik Zayin from the Mai Mishnah Gimel, the Taisus Yontif brings a raya that what to this idea that achroin. So two Taisus Yontif now. One to go ahead and tell us it's not me'ah but mem, and a second one to say the achroin does not mean achroin. It means what? It means afilu what money afterwards. Rabbi Shmuel, then we love Yochanan, Rabbi Lazar. Some say it's Rabbi Yochanan, others say it's Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Lazar. Chadam binyan. What does it mean? It was bigger. It was bigger in binyan. It was higher. The Chadam amibeis bishanim. That the second bias stood for 420 years, whereas the first bias only stood for 410. In other words, they're not arguing. Each one admits to the other one that the bias sheni was large, it was taller, and the bias sheni was longer. So now you made it 40, right? Why did we say? What was the teretz? Why did you make it 30? Because it's 40. Says the Gemara, it wouldn't stand. So Fred the Gemara, I got an eitzah. The nevdu tilsin, make it 30. Amen. The binyan, the idach, nevad paroiches, and the other one you should make what into a paroiches. So make it. You have a cheshbon of 40. Make it 30, and the next 10 above that should be a paroiches. Because we know 30 could stand, right? 30 could stand. So 30 could stand. Go ahead, put a paroiches on top of that, and therefore it would work. It says ki kol tilsin amasa. Ki koi tilsin amasa nami agav tikru maziva koi. Take out the word have. But like tikru maziva loy koi. So in other words, according to this teretz which I showed you in Tosfos, it's not enough to go ahead and have it 30. It has to be that 30 is attached to what? A roof with cement. If you're going to go ahead and put a roof with cement there, and excuse me, you're going to take away the roof with cement by putting paroiches on top, it's not going to stand. The 30 is not going to stand. So do whatever you could do. So 30 couldn't stand. Maybe 29 could. Maybe 29 could. Maybe 28 could. And whatever, you make up the difference, put up 11 and 12. No, it's good. You're telling me 30 is not going to do it. But whatever, proportionally, get the engineers, right? They'll go ahead and figure out exactly what the amount of, but to go ahead and just take away a wall and put up a paroiches, right? How can you do that? How can you do that? Either the whole thing has to be made of stone, or the whole thing has to be what? Be made from paroiches, from curtains. So now we don't need the first teretz, guys. In other words, there's no idea of making a hybrid. You can't make a hybrid. It's got to be either or. Ikula bebinyan, ikula bebinyan mi migdash, ikula preches mi mishkan. You go ahead on and that you do on with the mishkan. That you go ahead on and you do with the mishkan. Okay, so in other words, the first bias, you had a wall that was 30 high, and it stood, no problem, and it divided you between what? The Kodesh and the Kodesh Kodashim. What was its width? An amma. In the second bias, we had a proiches, one in front, and what was its width? An amma. And there's no eitzah to go ahead and put up a wall, a half a wall, or nothing. There's no eitzah. Now, why was it an amma, guys? Why was it an amma? Because David HaMelech gave the exact dimensions. And he said the distance between, in other words, if you start counting the exact area in the Beis HaMikdash, going that first 11, there was 11, then there was base, whatever it was, you got to you couldn't take away any area from the Kodesh Kodashim, nor could you take away any area from the Heichal. You know, it had to be perfect. So if that's the case, I think this is a really good kasha. This I have from the Sefer called Shiuri Hayoim. The Shita Mekubet says, Hevi b'shem Toisus Arash, lahakshais, shalachayra, kishem shayisifu ala goiva, ken yisifu al roichev ahechel, v'yoisin kir rochav yoser. You're telling me already that in the second bias, they added onto the height. Why don't you add onto the width? Fellas, if you add onto the width, you could build what? A very, very, very big, tall, brick, stone wall. You're telling me there's no way you can go ahead and do this. It doesn't work because it's not going to stand. But you told me that you changed the dimension already. You changed the first Beis HaMikdash, it was 30, and the latter, it was 40. Once you're changing the height, change the width as well. Make it wider. As a result of it being wider, you would be able then to do away with the paraikas and make a full-fledged binyan. How do you like the kasha? Great kasha. Umitaritz shlayachul l'shanes es mides haksalim. You can't change the width of the wall. Kiven shlayachul l'shanes es hakarka sheniskatsha leulam lasoisle lehechel. In other words, these places, this area was mekadesh for a specific purpose. One was the ulam, one was the hechel. The me'azar lemizbeach. Aval begoiva she'ein mishanim b'kedusha yachol lahaisif. But when it comes to height, which you're not changing in kedusha, that you could go ahead and do. The very nice places of rush closed by the Shidduch Gebetzes, fellas. When it comes to going ahead and taking away from the actual karka of the Beis HaMikdash, that you can't do. This was the Ezras Nashim. This was the Ezras Yisrael. This was Ezras Kahanim. This was the Azara of the Mikdash. This was the Ulam. This was the Heichel. This was the Kodesh. In other words, if you would go ahead and make the wall wider, more than the Amma, you would be taking away, diminishing from the Kedusha of the Heichel. Can't do that. Can't do that. So very geschmack. When it comes to the height, that you're retaining that same area, that you could change. When it comes to the width, going in and changing the width, that you can't change. A very geschmack at Taisus Rush to enhance our learning. Says the Gemara Vaita. Okay, now we're going through these bricks. Now, just remember to reiterate the bricks. The brick was the Gvil was 6 tefachim. The Gusses was 5 tefachim. The Kfisin was 1.5 to 4 because they put mortar in the middle, and the Levanim were 3, 1.5 each. So says the Gemara, Iboilu, Hein Bisidan is speaking about them and the mortar. When it says 6 tefachim, is that including the mortar or excluding the mortar? Dilma Hein Beloy Sidan, that without the mortar. Amrav Nachman by Yitzchak, Mistaba Hein Bisidan. When we're giving those dimensions, it's including the mortar, the cement. Disak Daitach Hein Beloy Sidan, then the Snayel Shiure. Then you should learn the share plus the plaster. You should learn the plus the plaster. Elalash Mamina Hein Bisidan. Says where you have no raya. I'll say it's hein belat the sidon. The kivin delay habi tefach, since it's not a tefach leitani. In other words, I I didn't mention the bricks. I didn't mention the mortar because it's not a tefach. So I'm rounding things off. Like Katani, Bilvanim, Zen nice and tefach umechza, Zen nice and tefach umechza. You all tefach and a half, tefach and a half. Asam chazi l'starufe. There you can go ahead and combine it to a full tefach. So since 1.5, 5 to 3, we're good. Tashma. HaKoresh, guys, remember Eruvin days. You have again, very quickly. We're not allowed to take from Rishus Rabbim to Rishus Hayachid. That's a din deraisa. The Chachamim were machmir that to avoid that, you can't go from one Rishus to another Rishus. So they had the following. They had a house Rishus that went into a Chatzar, that went into a Mavoi, that went into Rishus Rabbim. So you wouldn't be able to go from a Mavoi to Rishus Rabbim. You'd put on top a koira. And what's the thickness of the koira? We're going to see it's half of a brick. Brick is 3 tefachim, half of a brick is 1.5. Now, if it must be what? This is including the mortar or not. I would assume it's not including the mortar. Why? Because you don't need mortar for a koira. But says the Gemara, Tashma HaKoira, the beam that we put across the top of a koira, of a mavui, to remind the person that they're about to enter Rishus Rabbim. Sha'amru, Rachba, its width, Kedei L'Kabel Uriach. It's to be Makabel on Uriach. But Uriach Chatzi Leveinish Tefachim, and a Uriach is what? Is a half of 3 tefachim. So that means it's 1.5. So what do you see over there? That's without. You see there, it's without. It's 3 without the mortar. Because again, you don't need mortar up there. It says when a Hasan Baravrava, that's speaking about a big brick. Dekenami Tani shall shloishet tefachim, right? In other words, it seems to me there are levanim that they themselves are full 3 tefachim, and the 3 that are levanim are 3 tefachim with their mortar. Our mission is describing 3 small bricks that with their mortar equal what? 3 tefachim. The Mishnah in Eruvin is describing a larger brick that it itself is 3 tefachim. How do you know that there's such an animal? If you look at the Lashon, guys. HaKoresh Amu Rachba, its width, Kedei L'Kabel Uriach, Uriach Chatzi Leveinu shel Gimel Tefachim, a levena of 3 tefachim. Now, fellas, if it's a given that a levena, they're all universally equal, what do you mean a brick of 3 tefachim? Just say a brick. And we know it's 3 tefachim. And what's the answer? There are bricks that are 3 tefachim, and there are bricks that are not 3 tefachim. Right? A brick of 3 tefachim, a full-fledged brick. Our Mishnah is describing one, not a full-fledged brick, with the cement to equal 3 tefachim. That's your right. Shema Mino, it's a good raya. Amrav Chista, Lister Inish, very interesting. Now the Gemara digresses to discuss Amrav Chista, Lister Inshi Bekanishta. A person should not go ahead and take down a base Kanishta, base Knesset, a shul, ad the boni base Kanishta Achrita, till you build another base Knesset. Ikid the Ami, others say, Mishum Pishi Usa. Some say because of Pshia, you're going to want to build it and you're going to not build it, and you end up not building the shul, and you took that one shul, you're going to build the other one. Because the army Mishum Tsiluya, you don't have a place to play, you don't have a place to daven. My binayu, it can be nayu, the ikka, let's change the girsa. The ikka duchta litzluye. If you have another place to daven, then you could take down the base medrash. But loitam the mishum pshiusa, that you won't build the other one, you would not be able to take it down. That's the difference. Loitam the amar, that the reason why you can't take it down is you might be pesheya and not build another one. So even if you have a place to daven, you won't be able to take it down. Loitam the amar, that's a practical reason that you want to have a place to daven. If you have a place to daven, then you'll be able to take it down. Merema Masutra, Sasri Ubano, Bekaita Bisisvasa, Ubano Besisvasa Bekaita. 2 types of base Knesset. There was one in the winter that was shorter with thicker walls and little windows because of the cold. And in the summer, there was one that was taller with windows that would give you a little more airspace. So in the winter, they would go ahead and take down the summer. In the summer, they would take down the winter. What happens if you collected the money for the base Knesset? Can you take it down? In other words, you're telling me you can't take it down until you build the other one. What about if you went ahead, and you collected the money, you have the funds to build the other one? Could you take it down? Mai, Amalei, Saravashi Toravina, Dilma Misrami Lahu Pidyon Shvuyin. you won't be able to take it down because maybe what will happen is you'll have to spend the money you collected for the shul. You'll have to connect it to go ahead and be paid a captive. The Yahavale Shirigi Livni, the Yavlehu. Okay, so you have to give it to him. So therefore, you won't be able to take it down because just because you have the money, it's not a guarantee you're going to build it. It says the Gemara, Shrigi Livni, Vahadre, Hudri, Umachtek, Shure Mai. What happens? You bought the materials. But then, could you take it down? Amalei, Zimni, the Misrami, Lupinian Shvoyin, Misavni, you'll sell it for Yovlu. In other words, even then you wouldn't be able, you'd have to build it, right? Even though you have material to build this, maybe you'll sell the material to be paid the shvuyin. So Rav Ashi is passing to Ravina, you would not be able to go ahead and take down the shul, even though you have the material for the shul. Says somewhere he said, Ravina, I feel ubanu nam, even if it's built, maybe right, you're going to go ahead and sell the shul to Pidyon shvuyin. So what's the Ein L'Dav Saif, right? You're going to end up selling this. There's no end in sight. Says we're no. Amalei. So Rav Ashi told Ravina, the Rasi the Inshi Lemis Avni, right? A person doesn't go ahead and sell his dira. You don't got to worry about it. He's not selling his dira. You don't sell it. You don't have to sell it. And therefore, even for Pidyon shvuyin, you wouldn't have to sell it. So Rav Ashi's passing, even if you collect the money, that you wouldn't be able to take it down. And even if you had the material, you won't be able to take it down. Once built, however, you would be able to take it down. If you didn't see cracks in the old one, you saw cracks in the old one, and now it's sakana, sasri yubani. You go ahead, you take it down, you build the other one. In other words, you would take it down and not wait for the other one being built because it's a sakana because of the poor construction. Rav Ashi saw in the town of Masa Machasya, he saw cracks in the shul. Sasre, he took down the shul. The Ayi Lapuri Lahasam, and he bought his bread there. He was going to sleep. He didn't take his bed out at the Metakle Shvichi. And I guess he didn't go ahead and leave there until they were metaking about the Shvichi. I don't know what Shvichi is. We have a Shvichi, guys? Anybody? Oh, remember the goddess. Okay, the goddess, right? Rashi says Marzarvin. In other words, he didn't take out the bed until they had even the goddess in, meaning the rest of the place was intact. Okay, so good. Now, Bahama Rav Chisda loy lister inshi bekenishta ubavim buta hechi asvile eitzel hordis lemisteri lebeis hamikdash. How did Baba ben Buta give a advice to hordis to take down the Beis Hamikdash and build another one? Ivam Rav Chisda list inshi bekenishta adabani bekenishta achrita. In other words, so based upon that, as we're going to see in tomorrow's Agadata, but how could he take it down if it wasn't built yet? It says he could either say because he saw there was cracks in the bias, and that's why he took it down. Malchasa shiny. When it's a melech, we're sure it's going to get built. Because he wanted to change his mind. Damar Shmuel, Malchusa Akrana Ture. If a melech says to uproot the mountains, Akature they'll uproot the mountains. And they won't have Charata. So two reasons that Bon Ben Buta was able to take it down, the Beis Hamikdash, either because there was cracks or because it was Hordis that said, I'm going to make it up, and there was nothing to talk about. Okay, Hashem. We'll stop here.